Welcome back, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast, the Dr. Lino Show. I would love to welcome today Blair Abee. Blair is an author, poet, educator, consultant, and ordinary mystic. I'd like to know what that means, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners will also want to know what that means. He has written award-winning 5 books available on Amazon Books and dozens of articles on meditation, manifestation, and related topics. Welcome, Blair, to the A Little Less Fear podcast.
Thank you, Lee. I'm so happy to be with you today.
Me too. I love this. I love that we have a lot in common: a manifestation, meditation, author, poet. So I would like to start by reading a poem that I wrote yesterday, and maybe you can share one of yours.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't have it titled. And here it goes. I realized I was closing myself off to receive. I had a piece of my heart tangled in a barbed wire of feeling less than. I was encaged by my own blocked memories until you showed me a different way to see wounds. I have since released the handcuffs that had me inflicted by my own memories of times long ago. My shadow has now grown taller, and I'm ready to receive wholeheartedly and unconditionally. Yes.
Nice.
Thanks so much.
Now, who are you addressing that to?
That is to someone that's dear to my heart.
Okay.
Thanks for that question, by the way. Do you have one that you could share with us?
Sure. Let me share with you, beloved.
Okay.
Oh, my higher consciousness, my love, my joy, my peace. Loving me, loving through me, loving. I open to you. I know you are always there. I feel like a bride, you the beloved, without which our union would not exist. Expand me, expand me. For just an instant, out on the edge of infinity, eternity. I only must breathe. You await my stirring, my remembering, our remembering. I encircle and take you in. Only you can complete the whole, for me, for the all.
I love that, Blair. And I know exactly what you're writing about, and I can feel it. And it's very beautiful. It just it's very pure, and I can see where it's coming from. The same part where it comes from me, and that is the all known, that's all consciousness, and that's pure love. I love that we can share this in common.
Yes. Well, and I wrote my book, my poetry book called Homage to Spirit, with Rumi in mind. Love Rumi.
Me too.
And so that book is my ode or my acknowledgement of Rumi.
I love it. And it is very roomy feeling as well, but definitely has the Blair twist to it, which is what makes it more unique. Blair, tell us about your journey. What brought you to where you are at today?
I think it'd be fair to say that my journey started approximately 45 years ago, when I first moved to San Francisco from North Carolina, and began self-exploration. And that included a yoga class at the Integral Yoga Institute in downtown San Francisco, near where I lived, founded by a fellow by the name of Satchidananda, who's the fellow who introduced Woodstock. And I've been meditating and doing yoga ever since. However, my breakthrough happened about 8 years ago, and it was a traumatic experience in a way. I moved from North Carolina back to California to be closer to my grandchildren, to San Diego. Took a high-level job, found out, unfortunately, that my boss was something of a psychopath, abusing employees, mishandling funds, and running the program into the ground. I could put up with that about a year. And I decided that I would go to the people above us and let them know what was going on, because it didn't seem that they knew. It turned out they didn't. an investigation was done. She was fired, but they fired me too
Oh man.
as a troublemaker. Now, troublemaker in this case meant I had brought attention to their mismanagement and had caused them some embarrassment, and I had to go.
That's
So
not fair.
my 25-year career in business consulting came to an end abruptly. My
Whoa.
income went away. And as you can imagine, my ego was incredibly
Sure.
bruised. I was devastated. Part of my therapy was to start doing some journaling. So I began to write in the evenings as I was looking for some other work to do, exploring my options. And as I did that, I found myself more and more kind of doing meditative journaling. And the breakthrough was I began to get a sense of my higher self or my soul
By meditative
coming
journaling.
through.
Blair, could you describe that a little bit more when you tell me before we go into how your soul
Yes.
was coming through? What do you mean meditative journaling? I love the
Yes.
sound of this.
Well, it was just getting quiet, beginning to using my keyboard type whatever was coming, into my mind.
So kind of like free flow,
and
like
free
just-
flow,
oh,
just free flow. That's
got
right.
it.
Exactly. And words and sentences and concepts and so forth began to come through that clearly weren't mine because they were much more advanced than my own thinking and my own understanding had taken me in life. And I like to call that experience soul contact, where I had experience of my soul as an entity, as a companion, as a brother, as a helper.
Did it feel like a separate self, or did it feel like a part of you?
It felt like a separate self at first. Now, over time, it began to feel more and more. There was more and more a sense of merging with
integration.
That's right. With that part of myself, to the point where today I'm having ongoing conversations on a daily basis with my soul. That still small voice inside of me that comes through when I get quiet, and it feels like a oneness as opposed to some separation there. But I refer to my soul or to my higher consciousness as high C. So
High C?
we have these. Yes. So we have these conversations. At about the 150,000 word in my journal point, I realized that I had material for books, and that what I was learning and understanding and downloading and so forth might be useful for other people. So it was at that point that I began to write or began to assemble my materials into books. And now there are 5 books. I've got also a journal that goes with the most popular book, which is called the meditation book. And, it was, all I can say is it was a breakthrough. I was going in one direction. I think my soul wanted me to go in a different direction. So we took a 90-degree turn, and now I'm happier than I've ever been. I'm thankful now to the people who fired me that they fired me because it forced me
took
really
you in a different direction.
That's right. It forced me to take that deep dive down into my meditation practice. And it really forced me to take a different direction, which is at this point so much more fulfilling. I think soul contact in a way is a lifetime achievement. Most people never get to a sense of soul contact, I don't think. Most of us, I think, know that we've got a soul, but we think of that as being, almost like God, someplace else and not available to us too much and all of that. But it turns out from my experience, that our soul wants to be in contact with us. And as
Yes.
soon as we turn to it, we'll immediately respond. It's been, I mean, my high C has said to me, I've been waiting lifetimes for you to wake up.
Wow.
But even with the yoga and meditation that I'd done prior to the breakthrough, that hadn't happened. And then when it happened, it was a blessed event. What can I say?
Sure.
It was a state of grace.
Hmm.
And I sort of feel like that now going on 8 years, just continues on a day-to-day basis.
And so you're saying the soul contact happened when you were doing the meditative journaling, correct? That's when
Yes,
it all began.
correct. That's right.
I have a question. So I'm very fascinated by this, and you best believe I'm going to try meditative journaling from now on, because
Yes.
I can't wait to try it actually. Now, I have a question here in regards to your poetry. Were you a poet before the
Oh, no.
meditative? You were not a poet before.
No, I'd never planned to be a writer. I'd never written anything. But sometimes, and this is from your own experience, sometimes poetry is a better way to say
Yes.
what it is that's bubbling up,
Yeah.
because it gives you a different way of using language and a
Exactly.
different way of expressing yourself.
Yes.
So there'll be times that I'll be, and I still do meditative journaling. There'll be times that the poetry muse hits, and it just starts flowing, and I just capture it as I go.
So the reason I love this, and I totally understand, and another reason why I'm so fascinated about this is because when I started writing, I was about 7 years old, and I mean, I've written thousands of poems. I've lost count, and
Yes.
but when I write, Blair, I feel that it's coming from a higher source, because I mean, I can write 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 poems within an hour or
Yes.
maybe less. And it's like I get into this meditative, if you want to say meditative flow state, and it just these words start pouring down.
Yes.
And a lot of the times I'm not thinking, it's automatic.
Right.
So now I'm wondering, and I want to try, if I start actually doing the meditative journaling, the free flow typing, what's going to come about it, and what type of poetry will I actually get? If poetry, maybe I'm just going to get thoughts this time, or words, or making sense of things. I'm really excited to try this. And is this all part of the articles and the things that you've written on manifestation related topics?
Definitely related. Everything's related. Yes, absolutely. All I can say is it sounds like you're already doing it.
True.
Sounds like you're already doing exactly what I'm talking about. And if you choose to do it in poetry, fine. If you choose to do it in prose, fine. Either way, it becomes a practice. It becomes part of your practice. It becomes part of your lifestyle. And every time do it, as your vibratory rate goes up.
Yeah.
You open up, your heart opens.
Yeah.
Your mind quietens down. And see, what I think is happening is that higher self, soul, spirit starts to flow. And the thing to do is just write and see what happens. And just let it flow. And you'll be able to tell if it's your human mind, generating something, or if it's soul contact generating, or flow, spirit flow, generating the.
Sometimes I could feel both. Sometimes I could feel human mind mixed with soul, and then sometimes it's pure soul. So I can feel a little bit of both.
So you can tell the difference.
I can, and I really didn't know I could tell the difference until having this conversation with you. But yes, I can definitely, like the one that I read at the beginning of this episode is an integration of both. I felt that it was a lot of some of my injured ego.
Well, there was this sort of dialogue going on.
Exactly. Oh man, I love this. So tell us about the benefits of meditation and how meditation works. I know I've had a lot of different people that I've interviewed on my podcast on meditation. And it seems like everybody has their own unique experience or their own definition of meditation. And I see it as it's a new way of praying, a new age way of praying. And I also see it as a way of loving your inner voice and trusting your intuition. So
Yes.
how could you explain what meditation is and the benefits of it?
Well, interesting you would use the term praying, because in a way, meditation is praying, but it's silent prayer, and it's praying by listening rather than speaking.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the same as what we were just talking about in terms of flow and spirit download. It's a listening rather than a speaking. It's a receiving rather than an asking, or even a
Yes.
demanding or bargaining. Trying to bargain with God. Meditation is much more quietening down to the point where then you can let that still small voice um, uh, come through, or you can just be quiet and silent and peaceful and abiding in that state.
Mhm.
And inevitably, as you do it and becomes at least a little skillful at it, you'll get a sense of vibratory rate increase, and a sense of contact with five-dimensional reality,
Yes.
which is what I think heaven is like.
Mhm.
But heaven here now is also possible. It's possible to have a sense of five-dimensional reality, and meditation is the most direct path to that state to spirit, to that sense of joy and peace and love and a sense of what heaven must be like, because I think that's what heaven is like.
I think so.
We take our last breath here, we take our next breath on the other side, and
Right.
there we are, and we're free of a body, and we're free of our human mind, and we're free of our fears. We're just our natural full self, completely united with our soul.
You said something,
So
Blair.
yes,
I'm gonna stop you because I try to put myself in the ears and the listeners and the watchers of the other people
yes,
watching the show. For for people that are not sure or questioning what fifth dimension is, how
yes,
could you make this description easy?
right.
What is a fifth dimension?
Well, the fifth dimension is the spirit dimension. It's
Oh,
it's
wow.
the it's the dimension above three dimensions. Four dimension includes time, according to Einstein, and then the fifth dimension is that invisible realm
Mhm.
where spirit resides,
Mhm.
and which informs three-dimensional reality. In other words, three-dimensional reality is life force coagulating, if you will, into three-dimensional reality, this hard reality. But at the same time, that invisible realm, fifth-dimensional reality, is surrounding all of that, and is the life force that is the source, if you will, of three-dimensional reality. So that's what's available to you, like soul contact is available to you at any time you turn in that direction. And again, meditation, to my way of thinking, is the most direct path to that.
I love how easily that's understood, and I totally get it. So third dimension is time, and fifth dimension is there's no time in fifth dimension.
No, it's just all it's all now. Now. It's nowness.
Nowness. Oh, yes. You know what? I just thought right now. So if fifth dimension is nowness,
Yes,
which is why you often hear people say to live in the present moment,
yes,
because if you live in the present moment, then you're nowness and you're closer to heaven in that case.
that's correct. Absolutely. Now, there's being in the moment, which is moment by moment by moment. In other words, you can sort of break it down into small incremental. But then there's nowness, where even the moments disappear and you're just there. And
As present as you can be, as we are right now.
you're just being. You're
Mhm.
being you're just ising.
Yeah. I love that. So then going back,
Sometimes, the
yeah,
words, you have to make up words almost sometimes to try to describe,
sure,
the
whatever
experience
makes
of it.
sense to me. So going back to meditation, it being
Yes,
listening rather than speaking and
yes,
receiving rather than asking or bargaining.
yes.
Are we is somebody able to ask questions and then receive an answer during meditation, or is it only sitting in silence?
Oh, no, you can ask.
Okay.
If you have a question, and just see what you get. And it seems to me, for me, sometimes I get words, spoken, the still small voice in my head. But a lot of times, my best way of contacting and having interaction is by sitting at my computer and writing. That seems to be my particular way. Now, some people get
Yeah.
voices, some people just get feelings, some people get intuitions. So everybody's a little bit different, but I particularly like um, communicating and writing like that.
I love it. So what is higher consciousness?
It's that state of awareness
Mhm.
when you are in the moment and where you are being and where you can sense that higher consciousness part of yourself, that elevated part of yourself, which is available to you. You could call it illumination,
Okay.
um, filled with light.
Hmm.
I mean, there are all kinds of ways to describe it, but the one of the benefits comes in the experience of it, and that's why, in many ways, I think traditional meditation practices are difficult, because traditional meditation practices are about mind training and trying to train the mind to be quiet.
Oh, that's
Well,
challenging.
the mind doesn't want to be quiet. It
No.
wants to chatter, 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 chatter.
Right.
It wants to be considering the past. It wants to be trying to anticipate the future.
Right.
It wants to be in charge,
Hmm.
um, until you begin to get a sense of this expanded version of yourself, in which case, if you get that expanded version feeling about yourself, the expanded version of yourself, your mind just sort of gets quiet, because it's also interested in in the experience. It is willing to step aside. And so that's the meditation practice that I have, which is called higher consciousness meditation, is intended to take you more directly and more easily to a state of illumination than trying to wrestle your mind to the ground, or tame the wild horse, which it really doesn't want. It doesn't want to relinquish. Its primary place as the director of this amazingly complicated biomechanical vehicle that we occupy. It wants to be the computer program that's operating and driving,
Yeah, it wants
the
to be, it
driving
wants to
driving the
continue to
vehicle.
be automatic.
That's right. It wants to be in charge.
What is so what is intuition? Is intuition part of higher consciousness?
I think it can be. I think intuition, creativity happens typically in flashes,
Mhm.
uh, and it can easily be there for a message from your higher consciousness or from your soul. But it can also be, putting two different kinds of things or ideas together in a way that maybe you hadn't thought about it before. And all of a sudden you have a sense. But everybody has, I think, some degree of intuition in which they kind of, sort of, in some cases, know what's coming down, or know what's in their future, or
Mhm.
have an intuitive sense of
Yes.
the outcome of some activity.
Mhm.
Um, so it's in the same realm, but I wouldn't say that it's same as higher consciousness, for example.
So it can be streamed from higher consciousness, but also not.
Yeah, I think, and again, I think different people have different experiences
Right.
of this, and you certainly don't have to be spiritual in order to have some, an intuitive sense about
True.
what
Right,
things.
right, right.
Yeah,
Because a lot of the times intuition can also be survival.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
So,
that totally makes sense. I can see that. I can see
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So tell us about higher consciousness meditation. How did you develop
yeah.
this? What happens during a higher consciousness meditation?
Well, let me just describe the process. Um, I do it by, and it can be done different ways. So I offer people the meditation process, but then I also say, adapt this to your own use, because this needs to be something that works for you if it works. And feel free to change it. But it starts by saying, peace, be still. So just a way of beginning the process, but also peace, be, and stillness is a good way to start. And then it's a 5-step process. So the first step is the all is as an open-ended statement. The all is, and then pausing to see what you get back in response. So the all, or God,
Mm-hmm.
is, and then see what comes back. It could be omnipresence. If it's omnipresence that comes back, feel omnipresence, and you can actually feel omnipresence when you speak of the all, since it is omnipresent. Or it could be different responses to that. But basically what you're doing is you're opening yourself up to the allness of the universe, and just seeing what comes back to you, because the universe wants to communicate with you in a way, and is will you have to do it for sometimes for a while. You might have to do it 10, 20, 30 times before you begin to get a sense of, or you begin to get a response that gives you a feeling of, yes, and then I am one with that. The next step is higher consciousness, or soul is, again, an open-ended statement, and see what comes back from that. Well, now the beauty of that is that you begin to open yourself to higher consciousness, or you begin to open yourself to soul, and it wants you to do that. It wants you to know it. It wants to participate in your life. So often there's immediate response. Sometimes it's just a feeling of openness. Sometimes your heart opens. Sometimes you get a sense of your vibratory rate goes up. Sometimes you get a response which is available, or companion, or even a way shower. But there's some kind of response that you get, and then you say to yourself, I'm one with that. And then the last open-ended statement is, I am an eternal being. And then again, pause and just allow that feeling or sense, or whatever that is, that will come back to you as a response to, again, opening up. And then the last little bit of it is having allowed yourself the ability to be one with each one of these, just finishing up by saying, elevate, illuminate, radiate. So elevate consciousness, illuminate, and then radiate that energy out into your world. So you get lit up, and then you share that with your world. Now, that can take as little as 2 or 3 minutes. If you want it to go on longer, and I love to just sort of sit and marinate after I've done the process, to sit and marinate in the experience of it. You can do it for a few minutes, you can do it for as long as you wish until you kind of get a sense that you're done. Or you've got a time commitment and you move on. So the beauty of this, if you do it in the morning and in the evening, it's a good way to start the day, it's a good way to end the day, and it only takes a few minutes, but it's a great way to open yourself up to the spirit or to higher consciousness joining you in your day. And then perhaps what you do is some mindfulness practices throughout the day as a way of remembering yourself. You might say, peace be still, for example, or you might say, I'm eternal being to yourself, just to remind yourself. It's a remembering to remember who you are. So beginning and end with the meditation, some mindfulness practices during the day is a really great way to sort of manage your consciousness. And that's what this is all about, is managing consciousness.
I love that. Managing consciousness. So in order to manage consciousness, and I wrote this down, so I just want to make sure our viewers and our listeners got this as well. Managing consciousness, also known as a consciousness meditation, or in consciousness meditation, you're managing consciousness. And you can do this by saying to yourself in a quiet space, peace be still.
Yes.
The all is blank, pause and see what comes in.
Right.
I am one with that.
Yes.
And then soul or higher consciousness is,
Yes.
pause and see what comes in.
Right.
I am one with that. And last, I am an eternal being, pause, see what comes in. Allow yourself to be on that feeling, and then elevate, illuminate, radiate consciousness.
Yes.
Do you say that at the end, at the very end, when you're done stating I'm an eternal being and waiting for an answer, do you state elevate, illuminate, radiate consciousness?
Yeah, after whatever comes from that open-ended statement, then you pause, take a deep breath again, and you sort of complete the process by saying to yourself, elevate, illuminate, radiate.
I love this, and I can't wait to try it.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it tonight.
Yeah. Well, it works. It works. A lot of people like it. And again, you can see how adaptable it is, and you can see how open-ended it is, and you can see that by offering your consciousness or your awareness as an invitation to spirit, to soul, to participate in your life, you can see how just doing that, after a while, you're going to get a response, because your soul, your higher consciousness, has been waiting lifetimes for you to wake up and to invite it in. And that's all that's needed, is an invitation.
I love that. All it needs is an invitation. That's incredible.
That's right. Yeah, just one little opening, just a crack in the cosmic egg, if you will.
Blair, what is spiritual manifestation and how does that work? I've never heard of spiritual manifestation. I mean, I can assume and I can make up probably what it might entail, but that would just be my own imagination. What is it in your words?
Right. Well, of course, in the last 20 years in particular, and with The Secret and so forth, there's been a lot of conversation about manifestation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot
buzzword.
A buzzword. That's correct. And I think there's a lot of hocus pocus about it. I think using, visualizations and verbalizations about, a BMW appearing in your driveway tomorrow. I mean, that's, to me, that's hocus pocus. I even think doing vision boards is kind of a hocus pocus, because from my perspective, a lot of that is the mind trying to create reality. and using these tools to do that. Well, it's still the mind trying to create reality. And that's very limited. It's very limited. I mean, we are, as three-dimensional beings, limited by our human mind until we begin to open up to spirit, or to, fifth dimension and higher dimensions and so forth. So I created a process, I'll share the process with you, called the best possible outcome process.
Yeah, share it.
And this,
I'd
and
love
this
to know
is
the best possible outcome.
this is spiritual manifestation. And here's how that goes.
Okay.
You start with peace, be still.
Okay.
And then you say, I ask for the best possible outcome in relationship to the Little Less Fear podcast that I'm about to enter into. So I'm asking for the best possible outcome. I'm not saying what I want the outcome to be. I'm not saying that I want a BMW in my driveway tomorrow. If it's transportation that I'm asking for, I ask for the best possible outcome related to my need for transportation.
I love that.
And then you pause, and you get a sense that spirit has kicked in. Sometimes it's a breath. Sometimes it's like a click. Sometimes it's a feeling that your higher consciousness has engaged. And then you say, thank you. Thank you for your participation in my life, higher consciousness.
Does somebody wait for, or do you wait for an answer when you say, I ask for the best possible outcome in relationship to blank? Will an answer come, or is this just, you just say thank you and you just trust the process?
Yes. Sometimes there's an answer, but mostly what you're doing is you're turning the outcome over to your higher consciousness or to spirit to have the highest possible outcome for yourself, for your maximum growth and evolution. So, and the results are often, more than you expect, or it's not something that your mind would have necessarily been able to conceive. And it gets you out of this notion that you're doing it wrong if the BMW doesn't appear in your driveway tomorrow, or whatever it is that your mind is trying to, insert into attempts to manifest. Instead, what you're doing is a spiritual manifestation where you turn it over to spirit, and you trust that spirit is going to bring you the best possible outcome. And you can use it for anything. You can use it for a parking place. Best possible outcome for a parking place for the restaurant that I'm going to. Now, that might not be right in front of the restaurant. It might be down the street a little bit, so that you can go by a store that you see something that, that's what I need. That's the perfect thing. Or just an encounter that you might have with somebody on the sidewalk as you go to the restaurant, which you wouldn't have had you had the best possible outcome been a parking place right in front. So, again, you don't want to dictate. What you want to do is allow.
Yeah, don't dictate, allow.
Yes.
You know what I love about this is, if you ask spirit for the best possible outcome, you're automatically, in that case, already having a good day. Because because the best possible outcome is going to show it's going to show itself. It's going to present itself somehow, and it makes the day exciting. It gives you eagerness, and it gives you more joy. I love this.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, in my book, the manifestation book, that's the central process that I use in explaining how to do spiritual manifestation. There are other possibilities. Gratitude is one way, that you can also employ.
Blair, what's the difference between, because I've heard this before, I listened to a lot of Abraham Hicks. I don't know if you're familiar with Abraham Hicks.
I am, sure.
So Abraham talks about, and for people that don't know, Abraham Hicks is, how can we explain Abraham Hicks?
Well, it's channeling.
Channeling
It's one
spirit.
person channeling spirit. That's
Right.
right.
It's a person channeling spirit. So Abraham says that it's a higher frequency to be in appreciation mode rather
Yes.
than using the word gratitude.
Yes.
How do you understand the difference between gratitude and appreciation?
I don't really distinguish between the two. Uh, I know that Abraham Hicks does. It seems I don't really see the difference. The point is, whether it's appreciation or gratitude,
Yes.
is that what happens is that it generates a higher vibrational frequency,
Okay.
which is what the best possible outcomes um,
Right.
process does too. It generates, and um, the the law of vibration, which governs the law of attraction, is that like attracts like. So a
Mhm.
vibratory rate of a certain frequency attracts people, circumstances, uh, uh, situations, things
Mhm.
that are congruent with or similar to that rate of frequency. So gratitude then opens you up for more of what you're being grateful for, because it generates a vibratory rate that attracts that. Now, I know people who in whatever unfortunate circumstance are um, depressed a
Right.
lot. Well, that is a vibratory rate that's going to attract things that are similar to depression.
True.
Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say that you created all this disease that you had,
Sure.
although from one perspective, you can say that on
Yeah.
some level, for
Sure.
some reason, you
Right.
created this. Um, but its continuance, if you look back at it, might have had something to do with being in that continual vibratory rate, and therefore the outcome that you were getting back was consistent with that. And if you had known at that time what you know now, you
Yeah.
probably would have been able to transcend it more easily
Right.
than you did. Um,
Speaking of that, Blair, you just
yes.
had me think of something. So, I mean, when I was going through all these surgeries and trying to overcome this disease, I was stuck in that, and and I even accepted it. This is my life. This is how it's going to be. So the
Yes.
more I accepted it, this is how it's going to be. Then it just became the everyday thing. You have a disease. It's incurable.
Right.
This is how it's going to
Right.
be.
Right.
But when I started raising my vibration and just coming into my oneness and realizing that your thoughts create your reality, I was able to change my reality. And now,
Yes.
obviously, I've overcome that. But
Yes.
you just made me think of something. So, towards the end of before I started raising my frequency and before I cured my own disease, I was in a state of gratitude. But check this out, what you just made me think. If somebody is grateful for their experience, because I at the time I felt, well, you know what, I'm grateful that I went through this because
Yes.
now I know this. I'm grateful that I suffered, that I lost my voice for 2.5 years. I'm grateful that I was in hospitals for 10 years because I gained this. But
Yes.
the more I was grateful for that, there were still remnants of it. I noticed.
Yes.
So let's say that I spoke to somebody in a conversation. Well, I'm grateful that I went through this because now I have an incredible relationship with doctors and nurses.
Right.
Well, why 6 months later do I have a surprise surgery again? I
Yes.
thought I was healed. And
Yes.
I came to realize that yes, it isn't semantics. And I cannot be grateful that I've been going through this because it's going to give me more of that to be grateful for.
Yes.
So I had to let it go and
Right.
say, I'm done with this. You know,
Yes.
thank
Yes.
you for the
Yes.
lessons. It's
Yes.
time to move on.
Right.
And now I'm grateful now for the things that are in my current present life that have a higher frequency.
Yes.
So it's so incredible how you just made me realize this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and it was part of your evolution. It was part of your
Right,
growth,
right.
to go from one frequency to another frequency. A lot of times people wake up
Sure.
because of difficult circumstances and difficult situations, and they realize that I'm going to have to dig a little deeper than I've ever gone before, and maybe I need a different way of thinking, or a different way of being, or a different way of operating in the world. Maybe I need some tools, and a lot of times people in difficulty will turn to spirit for the answer, and it's just part of waking up. I mean, that's what I can say about my own experience. It was just part of what I needed to go through in order to wake up. But then I let it go, like you said, and moved on to to higher frequency understandings and learnings and ways of being.
I love this, Blair. I feel like I can continue. Do you have any last words for our watchers, viewers, and our listeners?
Well, I think fundamentally what I would say to people is meditate, because that's my passion. And as I said, I think it's the most direct route to waking up. And this world needs a lot of waking up. I mean, I think a lot of the difficulties that we are going through perhaps are a species cry for help, and a desire to wake up, and realization that if we don't see the oneness of all of us, we're not going to survive as a species.
That's so true.
I mean, we've really got to transcend, and maybe AI can help us transcend into five-dimensional reality.
Yeah.
Take a lot of the burden of our minds away, so that we can pursue transformation into fifth dimensional reality.
That would be wonderful. It sounds like a great movie too.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah,
it really would.
Also, if people want a copy of
Yes.
my mindfulness book,
Yes.
All they have to do is go to my website, or go to www.highcmeditation.com. highcmeditation.com is my website.
High C as in H-I-G-H?
H-I, capital C.
Capital C.
As in like a high note, music
High consciousness.
High C, higher consciousness. That's right.
Blair Abee, everybody. Incredible author, poet, educator, consultant, an ordinary mystic. Love this. 5 books available on Amazon. It's just been really incredible, really transcending experience that I had here with you. Thank you so much for connecting me, and thank you for connecting our audience. And you have a blessed rest of your day, and maybe I will connect with you during meditation.
Namaste.
Take care now. Namaste.